It's a new year, and you know what? It is just nice to wake up and have something really quick, simple, and delicious to start off a whole fresh year. This quiche is a classic. The crust goes together extremely quickly with the addition of a little Parmesan cheese. You just bake it up to get it a little bit crispy, and then you put together the inside. Saute some onion and mushroom, and I'm gonna do them in bacon grease because, well, it's a new year. Chop up some bacon, put it all together with some milk, some cream, layer it into that tart shell, bake it up. This is really quick, simple, and a delicious way to start off a new year. And it's all coming up on today's Wise Guide. Since it's a new year, do you think we should just have Kip do all the talking from now on? I think he could tell you all the recipes just as well, because he watches me as I do them. No, he's not gonna, that's not gonna work. I'm not really a night owl, but I usually do try to stay up for New Year's, and that means I'm a little bit tired the next morning. But I love to have something just to start off the day. And you know what, after all those heavy holiday meals, which I do love, especially the holiday sweets, like seriously, peanut brittle is I love peanut brittle, it's just good. But I do like to have something a little bit more healthy and yet still delicious. So this quiche is exactly what I crave when I wake up. It goes together really quickly. You can make the crust the night before if you wanted to. You could also make a lot of the components before and then just throw it together in the morning and throw it in the oven. So whether you're out late or you go to bed at an early time, it doesn't matter because this is still just as good. And I'm not gonna tell anyone if you finish off that champagne while you're eating the quiche. You can get to those resolutions later. I mean, come on. Who does resolutions anymore? To start, you just wanna make your crust. In a food processor, just put some flour, salt, and a little bit of sugar. Just mix all those dry ingredients together, just pulse them a few times just to make sure they're combined. And then add your grated Parmesan cheese. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit savory, it's gonna add a great salty kick, a great flavor, and it helps hold the crust together. Then just chunk up some butter, make sure to use cold butter, and add it right in. Pulse it a few times until you get some pea-sized chunks and smaller. I just like to pick it up with my hand, check how they are, you really can't go wrong. Then just add a little bit of water with the mixer running, and that's just gonna help hold it all together. To check if it's ready, because it's still gonna look crumbly, just take a fistful, make a fist out of it, and see if it holds together. If it does, you're ready to go. Dump it right onto some clear plastic, and then just kind of knead it together until it holds and wrap it up tightly. At this point, you just wanna let everything relax and come together. It really hydrates everything that way, and it is easier to roll out. So chill it for about a half an hour or longer if you want to. Once it's chilled, I just like to roll it out. Now I'm gonna use a tart shell because that's classic for a quiche and because you know, I like to be fancy. But if you don't have one, don't worry, just make it in a pie dish. It's still gonna be delicious. Seriously, anyone can make this. Just on a well-floured surface, take out that shell that you have pre-ready to go, and then roll it out. I like to kind of roll it out in circles, so I'm always moving my rolling pin and moving the dough. That way, nothing is sticking and you're always kind of creating a circle. That makes it easier. If you start off with like a rectangle piece of dough and you roll it out into a rectangle, it's really hard to get into a circle, isn't it? Yeah, we've all been there. Don't worry, I get it. Once you have the right size, you can just check it by putting your pie dish or your tart pan right on top and checking. Just fold it over the rolling pin and then put it right into the dish. At this point, you wanna make sure you get that dough into the corners. Don't just press it in and stretch the dough, because that's gonna cause it to shrink up. Instead, pull up the dough and let it fall down into the corner. That is gonna make sure it does not sink in as it bakes. Once you have the dough in there very well, and don't worry, if you get a little rip or a tear or a hole, just take a little bit of extra dough and patch it in. No one is gonna know once it's all put together. Take your rolling pin, just cut off the top, make sure it's even with the pie dish, and then put it back in the freezer. I'm only gonna freeze it here for about 10 to 20 minutes. You just really wanna make sure it firms up. Again, this is gonna help it not to shrink in the oven. Once it's frozen and cold, just crumple up a piece of parchment paper. You could also use tinfoil. I just crumple it because it fits into the corner then really well. Put it down to the shell and then put either pie weights or if you use beans, whatever you use, no problem. I actually have read recently how now people are using sugar and it kind of toasts the sugar, but also it perfectly sinks down into all the nooks and crannies. And it does not make the sugar melt. It's at a low enough temperature. I know, mind blowing. I've tried it, it's wonderful. But anyway, I'm using pie weights. Put it right into your preheated oven and then let it bake. It is really important to do it with weights because if you don't, it could puff up, it could really get some nodules, it could really not be evenly baked. So make sure it bakes for long enough with the weights. Once it is at that point where it's just getting crisp around the edges, but the middle is not done, just take those weights out and let it finish off in the oven. While that's been baking, you can just get ready all the filling. And seriously, it's pretty easy and it's probably stuff you just have laying around your fridge. First, you just wanna dice up some onion, and instead of sauteing them in butter, which you could do, I always keep a little bit of bacon grease in my fridge. Yeah, that's how I grew up. We always had bacon grease by the stove, and you know what? It really does just add flavor. And if you're worried that it's unhealthy, it's fat. What is butter? Butter is fat. What is oil? Oil is fat. It's all fat, and we're using the same amount. So do not fear the bacon grease. Savor the flavor and love it. Yeah, you'll thank me. Put in some of that bacon grease, let it kind of melt out into the pan, and then just add your onion. Just let it saute till it's translucent. While that's sauteing, you can just chop up your mushrooms. I know some people take the stems out. I mean, you could, but why? When they saute up, they're just like delicious mushroom. Leave them in. Once they're all chopped up and your onion's translucent, you can just add all your mushrooms, mix them around just to make sure they're cooking evenly. Add some salt, it's really gonna draw out the moisture of the mushrooms, and some pepper. Stir it around just to evenly coat them with the oil, or well, bacon grease, and let them saute until they start shrinking and they've released all of their moisture. They're really gonna cook down and you're really gonna notice a huge difference. Once they're sauteed, you can just pull them from the heat and let them cool off to room temperature. For the filling, it could not be easier. In a large bowl, crack some eggs, mix them up till they're well combined. It's just easier to whisk them when there's no other ingredients in there. Add some milk. Of course, use whole milk. It just adds better flavor. A little bit of heavy cream because you need a little bit of that richness. Mix that together just to make sure it's all incorporated. For all the other components, I just like to have them ready to go. Usually I have some bacon either in the fridge or freezer that I fried up and have ready, so I just dice it up into small pieces. If you have ham or something else, just use what you have. Grate some cheese. You know I have an affinity for Gruyere and I happen to have smoked Gruyere, so I'm gonna shred that up. Yeah, I mean, it's smoked. Anything smoked just gets me. It's my spirit animal, or spirit cheese. And then finish up your egg filling. I like to add more flavor, so a little bit of salt, some pepper, and some Dijon mustard. I love the kick mustard can give, and I'm just adding like around a teaspoon here, so it's not gonna be like a mustard flavor, but just like this great depth of flavor. Mix that together just to make sure it's evenly incorporated. At this point, your crust is probably done, so you can remove it from the oven and just let it sit until you're ready to assemble. Instead of throwing all the components into that egg mixture, I like to put them into the tart shell. That way they're distributed evenly right away. Start with your bacon, just evenly sprinkled on the bottom. Then your shredded cheese. Then put on all those sauteed onions and mushrooms, just evenly put them over the whole top. Then pour on your egg mixture. To finish this off, give it a nice like golden topping and extra flavor, I like to put some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Once it's assembled, just put it right back into that oven and let it bake till it's golden brown, delicious, and set. Pull it from the oven, and of course, no, you cannot cut it right away because, well, one, you would burn yourself and hate me, and two, it needs to just kind of cool off so it really sets up well. If you're making it in a tart pan like me, make sure to take it out of the pan before you serve it. Or if you just made it in a pie dish, you can leave it in the pie dish to serve. Either way, it's gonna be delicious. When the quiche is cooled, you can just slice it up and serve it. This is great warm, it's great at room temperature, it's great cold. You could serve it for lunch with a light salad. Like, I know that sounds kind of pretentious, but seriously, it's delicious. Anyway, I just love a quiche, and what's great is you can make whatever flavors you want. If you have something different in your fridge, throw it in there. You can't really go wrong. If you agree and love this to kick off your new year, make sure to like, share, subscribe. For the recipe, go to the description box. And as always, have a happy new year.